I'm Bob Lebzelter. This interview was conducted over the telephone. Our guest on today's Perspectives is Lori Riley, Conneaut School Superintendent. This is our first show in about a year, but it is the first week of school. Not like any first week of school I don't think anybody has ever experienced. How has it gone so far, Lori?
Well, I've knocked on a lot of wood this week. Today is Thursday, so it's the first day of round two. So we had our first group of students on Tuesday and Wednesday, and for this being new for everyone, the consensus is it went very smoothly. And so far, I've been to the bus garage in 2 buildings, and I would say we're off to that same kind of start. And I'll get to the other 2 buildings when I'm done here.
So kind of review, because I listened to your recording one day, or your mass phone call, where you were talking about kids when they were going, and I told my wife I'm glad I don't have kids in school anymore. It's like if you live on this side of Mill Street, it's this side, and if you're this age, you go here, and what was it? What is all of that, and how did you figure it out?
My head hurts, and I'm glad there are people back in the district. I will say March, April, May, June, and July were pretty lonely around here. But once we started having staff come back in August, it seems like the days have flown, and I don't know how we're already in double digits in September. But, you know, I have a really big whiteboard in my office, and right after graduation ended, the end of May, I started working on a plan for reopening schools. So no sooner had we hadn't even finished the year. First of all, I couldn't have done any of this without the partnership that we have with the health department. Health Commissioner Michelle and I have, she's approved everything. We've worked on everything. We've changed some things. So it's the commitment to follow the guidelines that are put forth, but make it safe so we can have kids return to school again. And when the principals came back, we have a fluid system. We have green, which means we would be able to go 5 days, which we're nowhere near being able to do that. And then we had red, where students are home, but staff is teaching from their rooms. And purple, where everybody's at home, if that's what is declared. But we had a gold phase, and the gold phase was students would come 2 days in the building and learn at home the other 3 days. And when the principals returned, collectively, we agreed that our youngest students at Lakeshore, really what we learned a lot of things after March, but we know that our youngest students have the most difficulty spending any long periods of time learning remotely. So we made it work so that Lakeshore students could come 4 days a week, and everybody else is coming 2 days a week in person. When they come 4 days, they're coming shortened days, because with masks, it makes a long day for everybody.
Oh, I bet.
And so, our youngest students were able to actually see 4 days a week. And I've spent a lot of time in a lot of state calls with both different health departments and superintendents around the state. And everyone was kind of grouping their kids that were going the hybrid model by alphabetical order. But that didn't make sense with me. Growing up as a blended family, I didn't share the same last name as my siblings. So how do you comb through all of that? And when you really think about community spread, I thought, well, if we're trying to keep the spread down in the community, it would make sense that we bring the kids in based on where they lived, not based on what their last name was. So, it was my idea that we bring them in by neighborhoods, and I handed that over to Kelly Thompson and Tim Gross from Transportation, and they have been absolutely phenomenal through all of this, and said, how do we evenly distribute the kids by neighborhoods and have them come on these 2 days? So that was, and it's almost an even. There's a little more that come on the B days, but it's east of Mill Street and south of 90, all come on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and then Mill Street, west of Mill Street, and north of 90 come Thursdays and Fridays.
So do they have to have the temperature taken when they get on the bus?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I was at the bus garage first thing Tuesday morning, and we were short a person on the bus. So I actually rode a route Tuesday morning and took temperatures because we didn't have enough adults. But we do temp the kids. We do encourage families to stay, at the stops in case their kid does have a temperature. But we were also able to extend the stops a little bit to have less kids congregating. So we have more stops than we had in the past to have less number of kids waiting for a bus.
I hear stories of like kids coming home and have a different mask on because they like their friend's mask design better. Did you have discussions with kids about not sharing masks, that sort of thing?
Well, and that's been at the building level, but I will tell you, in our youngest buildings, the climates they've created just with visuals at Lakeshore and Gateway to understand all of this is incredible. There's reminders. I was over at Gateway, and they have the little Spartans that have masks on the bulletin boards. So the visual cues are there. That was part of last week when we had individual parent, student, child meetings. It was just to kind of lay out the expectations before anybody came into the building. We do temp anybody that gets dropped off in a car or walks. We temp them as well. Those are the things that we're doing just for that extra layer of safety that, as things get better, we can start to pull away from.
What about sanitizing?
So for sanitizing, we purchased about 50 wall mounts throughout each building has 10 to 12 wall mounts in all of their entryways and in their high traffic areas. And we also bought some portable stands so that we could take them to the soccer field or to the football field. And then every classroom has pumps of sanitizer as well. One of the things we had to do was swap out our air hand dryers for paper towels. Besides working with the health department, we had a team from University Hospital's main campus look at our plan and walk through our building, and that was at their suggestion because the air dryers actually spread the virus. And so we've turned off all our air dryers and installed paper towels.
I was going to ask you, what kind of things did the health department and university hospitals point out or suggest that really hadn't occurred to you?
Chris Bartone, who's on our board, works for University Hospitals, so he pointed that out before the team came through. That was not one thing that we had thought of. We knew we'd have to close off drinking fountains. CDC guidelines, the extra sanitizing we knew, the recommendation of 6 feet of social distancing. Some of the guidelines was as little as 3 feet, but after meeting with both university hospitals and the health department, we're at a very strict 6 feet, which means really no more than 14 in a class. So the class sizes are small, which actually the teachers are loving, because you always want small classes.
But do they have, how do you have enough teachers? You didn't go out and hire more teachers so you could have 14 in a class. Is this like some meet, it's the fact that they don't meet at the school every day, you have 14 one day and 14 the next?
Right. So that's why, we could only make it work 4 days in one building. And collectively as a team, that's why we decided Lakeshore would do that. Everybody else has half their class and the other half, you'll see desks labeled A or B depending on which pod they come. So the classroom may still have 24 desks in them, but on A days the kids are in their A desks, and on B days the kids are in their B desks, so that we're not having kids sitting at the same desk in many situations.
So that's something I'd never think of.
Yeah, this has been months of just kind of strategizing. We have multiple teachers that shared buildings. So they might teach part of the day at the high school, part of the day at the middle school, part of the day at Lakeshore, part of the day at Gateway. We completely took all of that away. So none of our teachers have to travel between buildings. So again, keeping that spread down, we reassign classes. So each teacher is only reporting to one building for the week.
What about, do you pass out Chromebooks or computers or something for the kids at home? Or if they need them, or does everybody get one whether they need it or not?
For parents could decline if they were doing the online option, our SOAR program. But everyone else, and that was one of the first things we did as soon as we got our CARES Act money for the schools. I don't want to spend our money on a lot of foolish things. I want to make sure that what we're spending the money on now is something that when this goes away, it will continue to be of value. Do I think we're going to need 60 handheld thermometers when this is over? No, but we didn't buy any kind of building temperature systems. But the first purchase we made way back in May was to go one-to-one devices for everybody. So, I didn't want kids doing schoolwork on phones. I wanted them to have an actual device. So last week, that was part of the meeting. Everybody came in and got their Chromebooks so that they would have their devices. So they bring them with them when they're here 2 days, and then they work on them at home when they're home the other 3 days. Lakeshore, because they're going to 4 days, have tablets. So they did not get the Chromebooks, but they did get a device. They got a tablet.
Lori Riley, the school superintendent's our guest. What about, does everybody have internet? I would think like Pine Bituming schools, I know that there's that stretch of Williamsfield where there's no internet. And I read the other day that in and around Erie, Pennsylvania, there are people that have to go stay with their grandparents during the week because they don't have internet.
Yeah, and I put a couple surveys out. So we had some preliminary data, and I applied for a grant, and we did get a small amount of money. So, I don't want anybody sitting in their cars in town doing work because there's a mobile hotspot. Mm-hmm. So what we're going to be able to provide, and they have also been ordered, but are on back order, are mobile hotspots for the homes. Mm-hmm. So we're not putting internet in people's homes, but the hotspots will run just the district devices.
You could borrow something like that at the library.
Right. So for families who don't have internet, I don't want to take business away from Great Lakes. They're great people. So, we're not
Great Wave.
Great Wave, I'm sorry. I got my car at Great Lakes. Great Wave. But we are going to put these mobile hotspots in homes just to run our district devices.
So we got just a couple of minutes left. How are the kids taking all this?
Kids are resilient. And
they were born with computers and tablets in their hands. So.
Right. And there was a time when I know, our board was concerned because other districts chose not to bring kids back. And, the board met with the health department to review the plan. But it was important to us. We had not seen kids in 179 days.
Sure.
That's a long time. And, we don't know what the flu season is going to hold for us. We don't know what's going to happen in the winter.
That's what I hear, that this could, how bad it could get when it gets cold again.
And that's on every call and every, Zoom I was on, you keep hearing we're not sure what November to January was going to look like. So I didn't want to delay bringing kids back. We wanted them here. And I was, no matter what department anyone's in, no matter what union they belong to, non-union, parents, students, everybody has done a phenomenal job of working together to make this happen. And, we will continue to do this as long as we can. And when the rules can relax a little bit, we can look at bringing kids back more days. But they have done, the reports from the first 2 days, and I've been in every building every day, everyone's just doing a great job handling this.
It's kind of a work in progress sort of thing. Adjust as you go along every day.
It's going to be very fluid, absolutely.
Okay, we are about out of time. Lori Riley, school superintendent. Maybe we'll get back to you in a few weeks and see how things are going then.
Yes, we hope we can be here as long as we can.
The kids got to learn, and you can't always be waiting for things to get better.
No. So, everyone's got their masks. We have, if there's any students that can't have them, we do have some barriers that we put up around the students to keep that layer of safety. And, it's following those rules, and we'll be all right. So,
okay.
Keep my fingers crossed. They crossed.
Right. Thank you very much, Lori Riley.
Thanks. You guys have a great day.
Mm-hmm.